Welcome to Off-Grid with Dave and Sonya. I'm Dave. So this is a solar generator challenge. So today we're going to see if we can run a fan at nighttime while we're sleeping. And then when we wake up, we'll make breakfast. And then we'll also make lunch. And we'll see how much of the capacity we use on here. See if we can make it through all of these challenges. But this is the Bluetti EB3A. It's, if not their smallest one, it's one of their smaller units. So it has a running power of 600 watts and a capacity of 268 watt hours. So let's get started. So just a disclaimer, Bluetti has not paid me for this. I bought this unit myself. It's about a $300 unit. They had sales on it down to $209. I got this one for $239. This is a pretty cost efficient unit for what it can do. And it's a good entry unit for a lot of people. So for the first part of the challenge, I want to run a fan for 8 hours a night. But this unit's not very big, so I have to be picky on what I use. So I want to show you the differences between these three fans. The white one, this is an AC fan. This little dark blue one is also an AC fan. This little blue one is a USB fan. So let me show you what the differences are, and then we'll start the challenge. So I have this little fuzzy on here. We can see how well it blows. But let's turn this on high first. Because of my microphone, you probably won't be able to hear that. But it's using 55 watts right now. That's on high. You see how much the fuzzy is blowing. On medium, we're using 48. And on low, we're using 42. So on low setting, you can see how much the fuzzy is blowing, which is a pretty good amount. It would keep you cool if you're in front of it. But at 42 watts, it's only going to last me 5.6 hours before this would be drained. So that's not going to make it 8 hours. So this fan is out for the challenge. Now let's see what this little fan uses. It's only got one setting. So it's moving in a little bit. It's got a little bit of air, not a lot. It's using 17 watts. And it says it would last 12.6 hours. Which would make it through the night, but I don't think I'd be able to make my breakfast and my lunch. So now let's see what the other fan does. It also only has one setting. It moves a fuzzy. It feels pretty good. And it doesn't show any power usage on here. So it still says we're going to make it for 30 hours. But I don't believe 0 is accurate. So I have this other display. It's similar to the kilowatt meter, but this is for a USB. So let's plug it in. It has a readout on it. Let's move this over to the USB. 5 volts at 0.36 amps, which would be a total of 1.8 watts. So the USB fan, if it's using 1.8 watts, and we run it for 8 hours, that would be 14.4 watt hours. And out of the 268 watt hours available, that would be just over 5%. So we'll let this run for 8 hours and see what the percentages we use. I'm going to charge this back up to 100% before I start. And one other thing to mention, if we run off of the AC outputs, the unit actually consumes some power by itself. Because that's a switch from the battery voltage from 12 volts up to the 120 volts to get out of here. So even if we didn't have anything plugged in, the unit would still drain after a period of time. So anything, if we can turn off the AC and anything we can put into the DC section will make the life of this last a little longer. So if you can get anything to run off the cigarette lighter here or the USB ports, you'll be far better off than using the AC ports. So let me top this up and then we'll start the challenge. So we're back at 100%. Let's start the fan and we will run it for 8 hours and come back and see what the results are. So it's been 8 hours. I just unplugged the fan and we're down to 83%. So we use 17% to run the fan for 8 hours. So next I'm going to get the egg stuff out and we'll start making breakfast. We'll come back in just a couple minutes. So these are the freeze-dried eggs that Sonya made. So she had prepped these up the other day. We did a video on it, so you can look at the link up here. But let's see what this looks like. I'll put them back in the bag, but just so that you can see. So there's eggs and jalapenos and onions and ham. There's actually a couple tomatoes in there. Tomato chunks. So I'm going to make omelets with these. So we have to put this back in the bag. We'll add, she's got little instructions on here. We add a half a cup of water. So we'll add cold water. We'll let it set for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to cook them in this little waffle maker. With a little electric waffle maker. And plug that into the Bluetti. And it says it's a 350 watt waffle maker. So we'll probably have to make a few of these and we'll see how much power that uses. So the first egg is done. I screwed up in the video, it wasn't recording, but we were at 63. We're now at 64. We're using 350 watts, just like the unit. The first egg is done, but I'll show you putting the second egg on. So we added a half a cup of water in there. So I already put the first half on. This is a second quarter cup of eggs with all the mixture. There's jalapenos, tomatoes, a big hunk of tomato that I showed you. So we'll let this cook for a minute and I'll show you both eggs done. So it looked like we were almost done. So I unplugged it. It turned off this button so we're not consuming any power just sitting here. I can still see. So we're at 51%. That should still give us enough power to cook our lunch, hopefully. We will find out. I haven't done this before. Let me turn, well, that'll turn off in a second. But the egg was just finishing. So let's see what we got. So it looks like a waffle, but it's an egg. It's an omelet. But you can get these little dash cookers without the waffle griddle in them. It's still going to be 350 watts. It could be flat. That way it would make it look more like an egg. But these actually cook really good. They're kind of thin, but it's a quarter cup of egg and other ingredients. Makes it like a loaded omelet. So So I think we've done good so far. We're at 50%. We ran the fan for 8 hours, and we've ran the egg cooker, waffle cooker. It's a 350 watt waffle cooker. We run that for, there's probably about 3 or 4 minutes for each egg. It got pretty hot. I had to watch out. The steam was coming off. I felt like it was burning my hands a little bit. But that cooked 2 1/4 cup omelets. And then next we're going to cook, at lunchtime, we're going to cook some rice and some beans. So we got a slow cooker, and then we got a little tiny crock pot that'll cook the beans in. So we'll come back for lunch. So I have this crock pot, and I put in 1 can of Pinto's beans. We're cooking rice, and then we're doing rice with pinto beans. So I got a 1/2 cup of rice and a 1/2 cup of water in here. And this is in the rice cooker. I just turned this on, but my microphone wasn't working, so I had to record again. So this says it's a 50 watt unit, and it actually drew exactly 50 watts when I turned it on. You can see it's on here too. This says it's a 210 watt unit, and when I turned it on, it drew this up to 240, which means this was 190 watts. That's almost what it says. Right now it says we're only using 82. I must have hit the button. So there we go again, it's up to 240. So the rice cooker's going, and the Pinto's beans are going. So we'll see how long these take to cook, and then we'll come back. So we're using some power now. This just switched from 0.3 hours, which would be 20 minutes, down to 0.2, which would be 12 minutes. So somewhere between 12 and 20 minutes is all that we have remaining. I'm guessing the rice is pretty close to being done, but I know this is going to take a little bit longer the pinto beans will take a little bit longer, so hopefully we make it. We're in the finishing stretch. We'll see if we can make it. The rice cooker just switched from cook to keep warm. Let's see what the Bluetti says. We were still at 11%, but this was at 0.1 when it had the rice cooker on. Now that we're only using 82 watts, so 50 for the pinto beans and 32 for the rice. It says will last 0.3 of an hour, so that's 18 minutes, 20 minutes. Hopefully that's enough time to warm up the pinto beans. So I just unplugged the crock pot. Hopefully that gives me a little bit more time on the pinto beans. So it says we're at 0.4% or 0.4 hours. So that should give us 24 minutes. It's 6 more minutes more since I disconnected the rice cooker. So we're down to the last 3%, and there's a little battery meter, a little battery indicator on there. It's red. 3%, 0.1 hours left. And I did just check the beans. They're warm. They're not quite hot. I'm going to give it the remaining battery and see how warm it gets. We're getting close. There isn't much time left. So the beans aren't going to be hot, but they'll be warm. So the rice cooked for 20 minutes. And right now the beans have cooked for 40. And we're right at the max for the Bluetti. So this is a toss-up whether it's a pass or fail for the challenge. It's edible. I just tried a sample of it. It's warm. But we'll make the plate up here in a second, and I will show you. So the Bluetti hasn't kicked off yet. Still has 1% and 0.1 hours left. But I'm going to start making my plate. We'll see what happens if it automatically kicks off. So the rice is still steaming. Still says 0.1 hours, 1%. That didn't kick off. We'll give it all that we can. We'll try to see if it makes it. So we ran 8 hours with the fan. So we ran 8 hours with this fan. So that was 17%. And the display of how much wattage we used wasn't very much. It didn't say anything. It just said 0, which when I measured it, it was actually 1.7 watts. But it's USB, so I didn't have to turn on this AC output, which actually consumes some power. Then we made breakfast with this little Dash waffle maker. So it's good for waffles, but we use it for eggs too. It's a 350 watt. When we were done cooking 2 eggs in this, we got down to 51%. And then for lunch, we used the rice cooker, which is a 200 watt rice cooker. It took 20 minutes before it switched from cooked to warm. At the same time, we used the crock pot, which is a 50 watt crock pot. And we use that to cook the pinto beans. It's actually pretty warm. Hopefully it's hot. We'll see what happens when we get down to 0 battery life. The Bluetti kicks off. So 20 minutes on here, 40 minutes on here, and we've used the entire amount of this Bluetti. So when I'm done, if the sun's out, I'll take this outside. We'll plug it into I have a 100 watt solar panel, which is also really cool. Something to know on here. These aren't LiFePO4 batteries, are not meant to charge when they're freezing. So what I do outside when it's below freezing is I put this in I have a square igloo container, insulated container. I'll stick this inside the container and I'll run the wire from the panel to the inside of the container, plug into here, just so I can leave this outside while it's charging. It can charge with a 200 watt solar panel, but I just have a 100 watt for now. So we're lasting a long time on the last 1%. Hopefully that's enough to get the beans warm enough. But I also have some jalapeno freeze dried, which I'll put those on as a topper. And we have some freeze dried green onions. I'll use that as a crunchy to go on to the top of the pinto beans also. And then I have some spices. So I have salt, onion powder, and I think that one is oregano. Not oregano. Cumin. I think that's cumin. Hasn't stopped yet. So right now, this has been going for 47 minutes. So we're doing pretty good. So we will come back in a second after this kicks off. So we're in the finishing stretch. But what's really cool is this crock pot, once it gets up to temperature, it actually will click off. That way it doesn't overheat itself. So what just happened, it's still on. See, the light is still on. And it just went to 0 for the output power. So I still have 1% left. And now it says based on that, I have 0.2 hours remaining. So we will see if I can pull this lid off and I get steam coming off. I'm going to call it a success. So we're at 51 minutes right now. So it is now 54 minutes. Crockpot just kicked back on. We're drawing 50 watts again. We're back at 1% in 0.1 hours. So we're on the finishing step. I think I'm going to go just one more minute and then we'll see if it's steaming. So it's been 55 minutes. So let's see if this is steaming. We still have 1% left. 0.1 hours on the Bluetti. See if we can see steam. I see steam. I don't know if you can see the steam. So I say that's a success. You see if they're hot. It's hot. Not too hot. Let's finish. Let me turn this off first. It's probably gonna be hot. I don't know if I need all this. It'll work. I'm a guy. I can make it look pretty too. A little bit of onion. Oops. A little bit of onion powder. A little bit of salt. A little bit of cumin. Some freeze-dried jalapenos. Let's see. It's hot. I don't know if you could hear the crunch with my microphone. With some green onions on. You can hear that. Dinner is served. We passed. We passed the challenge. Have a good day. If you like these kind of videos, subscribe up here. More videos down here. Have a good day. Bye. Look at that.